Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining New Jersey Wedding Podcast. We are your hosts, Andrea Pertel and Celia Milton. And if you're not familiar with us by now, we are both professional wedding officiants in the state of New Jersey, and we have been for 14 plus years. And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, hi everybody. Welcome. Greetings from frigid, cold,
It is
windy
cold
North New
out there.
Jersey. It is cold out there. Good.
It-
It's a good time to stay inside and think about wedding venues. So
Right,
talk about
right.
that.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about we've been doing you're engaged. Congratulations, you're engaged.
Hmm.
What next? And so this is part two of the what next, what to do next. But yeah, it's cold today and yesterday was Thursday. I love a good Thursday
Oh
wedding. I
yeah,
love a
definitely.
weekday wedding. And I just, before we start this, because I was at a beautiful wedding yesterday,
Yes, you were.
I was at Shadowbrook in Shrewsbury, and
Mhm.
I've been there quite a bit. It's close to me. It's a beautiful, elegant venue. They also own the one that's close to you, the Venetian,
Mhm.
right? That's kind of out by you, Celia, right?
Yeah, and I think seasons too. I'm
Yeah.
pretty yeah.
It's a beautiful venue, very elegant, upscale, but
Yeah.
what a nice ceremony we
Yeah.
had. It's one of those, well, often almost always leave on a cloud smiling because I love what I do and it's just such a joyous occasion that I just it was a beautiful ceremony and what a sweet couple to work with and
Mhm.
the venue's nice and the people that work there are nice. We had uh, their ceremony included a savor the moment where they look out at their guests and take it all in, and a group vow. I don't get that too often, and this one was
Hmm.
quite beautiful. It was really nice. They wanted to really include their family and
Mhm.
friends.
Oh, I like that.
In it. Yeah, they really wanted heavy on that. And then they also did a ring warming, which everyone came up to me afterwards saying how beautiful that turned out.
Nice touch. I haven't done that. I actually did two or three of them in December, and I hadn't done it in a while. And I really like that. I think people really enjoy that.
People love that. And this was, of course, this was a very large wedding.
Hmm.
So we just did the immediate
Yeah.
family
Hmm.
and their wedding party who were seated. They did have a wedding party, but they chose
Yeah.
to have their wedding party seated and not standing up there with them. So they passed it the first two rows of the bride's side and the first two rows of the groom's side. And you talk about how um, it holds the rings will hold their love and everybody passes it between them and kind of holds it and silently says a blessing over them. And I saw the photographer came out and he got some good pictures, I think, of the parents holding
Mm.
it and saying a prayer over the rings and then then I get the rings back and I talk about how they now contain within them something more precious yet priceless, the love and support and blessings of your family. So um, that was really beautiful. That's always a beautiful moment.
I like that
Yeah,
too.
it
It's a
was really
great
good.
picture moment. Hmm.
I will say, because we do talk about giving advice, and I loved every vendor there and I love the venue. It's just that sometimes things happen. I talked about, thank goodness, the bridal party was seated because part of the decor, and we have both seen this um, on a
Yes.
couple more than a couple of occasions, the decor going down the aisle and at the end of the aisles and up at the front of the aisle, which photography wise looked beautiful,
Hmm.
but they were tall cylinder, water filled cylinders, glass cylinders with a candle in them. And before the ceremony even started, two people had accidentally bumped into them and broke two of them.
Hmm.
I was looking out and there was somebody with an aisle seat and I was like, that person's dress is going to catch on fire. I had to like
Yeah.
not look, but it didn't catch, and nobody else broke any, but two broke. And that's not the first time I've seen that happen.
No.
I just don't think those are a good choice for down the aisle at
Well, a
all.
lot of time I actually did have somebody catch on fire. She spent the rest of the wedding wrapped in a tablecloth. It was very
Yeah.
attractive. Not as nice as her dress, but yeah, yeah, hey, she looked good. A lot of these aisles are just because of the way these spaces are, not the Shadowbrook because it's enormous, but we have
Yeah.
we have a lot of venues that I'm thinking of that have the long, narrow, seating, and the aisle is not always very big.
Right.
If you've got, a person in a dress with one or two parents, and you really need to have a couple of feet on each side. Those lanterns, those are well, lanterns too. Those usually don't knock over, but the cylinders, you
Yeah.
need space around them because I think people just don't really notice them.
And usually the breakage happens, what I noticed, because I did a wedding at in Asbury Park, and
Mm,
in the top of the convention hall, I think it's closed down for renovations now. It was there is always a significant amount of congestion when the
yes.
people are leaving the ceremony. After the bride and groom have left, or the couple has left, and
Yeah.
after the wedding party has left, and then now all the guests, and there's this congestion for some reason going
Yeah.
back, exiting the ceremony space. That's when they get knocked over a lot. People are
Yeah.
trying to make their way out of the aisles. It's just a lot of venues, many no longer allow real candles. It's
That's
electric,
true.
but still the breakage in the
Yeah.
water and
I know. It's
something
yeah.
else works better.
Yes. I actually did one. I was thinking about this. They they did like sometimes they'll hang the little bouquets on the outside chair against the
Uh-huh.
aisle, and they had the little, electric little candles buried in the little bouquets. It was very sweet. And you couldn't,
Yeah.
I mean, unless you were really investigating things, you'd never know. I mean, I guess you'd guess that they weren't real, but a lot of our venues are not really allowing any kind of open flames at all except a unity candle. And that unity candle is guarded like it is the codes on the football for the bomb. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
nobody gets near that unity candle. Somebody comes in, swoops in, takes it away. I love that because I'm OCD about setting things on fire. So
Right. And
send in the
now when
squad.
when I do a unity candle, because some venues don't even have little tea light candles
Right.
anymore, I bring my own little tea light
Yeah, me too.
candle in a pretty little thing, because I use that as the source light. Instead of up there with I always have a nice pretty lighter
Yeah, a barbecue
nearby,
lighter. I know everything's
ready.
like
No barbecue lighters,
and
no, but a
fifteen
pretty little.
thousand dollars worth of flowers and a red barbecue lighter. It's like, oh my gosh.
But
No,
I
no, no,
usually
no.
have a nice, pretty
Yeah.
one, but I usually don't need to use it because that little tea light candle I use as a source candle.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to bring your own now, because for obvious reasons, they're not going to have that. But that's my only recommendation for this. Everything was absolutely
I'm sure it was gorgeous.
beautiful. It was
Yeah.
such a great ceremony. I loved it. It was so great.
It
Um,
really is a stunning space. The new ceremony space is just so pretty.
no, yes,
It's
yes.
just it's a very grand like entrance into, you drive in and there's this
Oh,
big
yeah.
driveway in front of the building, and it really is, it's very grand and pretty. I'm looking at their website and I notice now that they have those fabulous chandeliers like they have at the Venetian. They're like 14 feet long. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa, that's
It's
so pretty.
gorgeous. I will say one thing, because I used to like to review these a lot on my venues. Is I had decided yesterday that I think they have at Shadowbrook, they have the nicest bathrooms.
Ah,
They have that big lounge area to one
ah,
side.
ah,
But then also, each stall is like it's like its own separate little
I like
room,
that.
you know.
I like that. But it sounds like a weird thing to talk about, but I think some of the venues that, people notice that like little things like that.
Right.
It's like to have a really pretty venue and, the ladies' room looks like high school. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like it's just weird. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very nice.
Cool.
I love it. I just booked another one for there. I'm happy to say, for this summer. So I always love having that on my schedule to come
Oh, it's
up. It is,
beautiful in the
it
summer
is
there
one of my
too.
favorite places. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, the
Yeah.
gardens are gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
So,
Just like a tiny little plug for the rest of their venues. If you love the detailing and everything about the Shadowbrook, but it's not really in your area, they also have Seasons, which is in Westwood. It's in Bergen County, and they have the Venetian in Garfield, and they're both like every surface is beautiful. It's either etched glass or marble, or I mean, they're just the attention to detail with the decor in all three of these places is just amazing.
right. I would describe them as grand,
Absolutely.
elegant, that style. And so as we
And delicious too.
yeah, and delicious. Oh yeah. um and So that brings us to what we're talking about today. You're
Yeah.
engaged. Now what? The first thing we talked about on the last one was a little bit of pre-planning, bridal lawyer,
Yeah.
hack my honeymoon.
Hmm.
If you didn't listen to that one, you might want to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, that's a good
We
one.
talk about celebrating your engagement and discussing your vision, setting your budget, and
Hmm.
creating your first draft of a guest list. And now it's we're looking at book your venue, because that's
Yeah.
really, you have to get that before you can do a lot of other things. You can't get your other vendors and stuff. So you're looking at book your venue. How exciting. You've discussed your vision. So you know that you might want um, a beach, or you might want
Hmm.
the elegance of something like Shadowbrook, or you're looking for something rustic, elegant, like
Hmm.
you know, Hamilton Manor or things like that. Although that's more of the elegant side too, right?
It's got
So
everything. It's got rustic and it's got elegant, which I think
yeah,
is one of the. I'm actually going there next week or this
right. I was
weekend.
going to ask you, what are
Yeah.
you doing this weekend?
I'm going to Hamilton Manor, and it. I love that combination because that, especially at this time of the year. I mean, it's pretty all the time because it's got beautiful gardens. It's got a great like graffiti wall that you can take pictures in front of, which I think is extremely hilarious. And a pickup truck. They've got all kinds of great stuff there. But the ceremony
Great
space,
photo ops.
it's
Yeah.
oh, great photo ops. The ceremony space, the inside space, it's a Barney kind of feeling to it with big glass doors and a beautiful fireplace. And it's just like it's so warm and pretty. And then people go from there into the very elegant grand ballroom. So you get kind of two spaces in one there. It's really neat.
Yeah. I love it there.
Hmm.
It's gorgeous. I love the ceremony space.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I feel good in there. So yeah, so whether you're going for the elegant, the rustic, I want a garden wedding, I want to be on the beach, because New Jersey does have miles
Hmm.
and miles of beautiful shore, and there's a lot of great, beach
Yeah.
venue
Yeah.
that also range from elegant beach venues to, more of the toes in the sand, tiki bar beach venues. So
Yeah.
so you now know your style and what you want, and you can start looking up venues. So when you're looking at venues, I guess you start first, Celia, with maybe your budget. Make sure the venue
Yeah.
fits into
Yeah.
your budget.
Yeah. I think we're going to talk about some of the actual things. Like we need something that will seat this many people and
Yeah,
obviously, on
capacity. Yeah.
capacity and this date and, but there's, and I talk about this with my couples all the time because I hear from them. It's like, well, did you look at 10 other venues? Yes, we looked at that one, and there was like an emotional connection, and it may not tick all the boxes that all the list items that you wrote down, but there's going to be something about it that emotionally just it's like, okay, I can see us having our party here, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
There is an emotional connection to a lot of
yeah.
the venues. People
Mhm.
say that, but also budgets are real.
Yes, they
And
absolutely are.
when you're looking at venues, I do advise that you be sure to factor in potential hidden costs, such as the
Yes.
service charges, the taxes, or are there any additional fees for setup or breakdown? be sure to ask those questions. This is very important. Don't hesitate to ask questions. And as we said before, even if you're looking at budget and you ask the hidden cost questions, there are some venues that do include tablescapes if you want them. They have, I
Yeah.
know Clark's Landing, the Mill Lakeside Manor, they have beautiful
Hmm.
tablescapes that come included if you want. You can certainly bring your own if you want to invest in, if you have that in your budget to do florals on every table, but they have beautiful ones. I know the Sunset Ballroom does too. And we talked about, because we interviewed Pleasantly Divine
Oh,
Stables. You
right.
had been
Yeah.
there.
Hmm.
Yeah, and she has a great assortment of arches,
Yeah.
signs, tablescapes, right?
Yep. All kinds of things. And I think what's nice about that is that some of these things you may not even really think about too much, and you don't have to. So
Yeah.
it's great.
If I can
Um,
save on my table numbers, my tablescapes, my welcome to our ceremony sign, an arch to choose from, unless you have like, I absolutely want this type of thing.
mhm.
These are beautiful venues, right? Estate at
Yes.
Eagle Lake had that as well. And I know the
Yeah.
Raritan Inn has an assortment that you could
Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
from.
I think that's such, it's especially if you're trying to plan from out of state. And as I said this morning when we were talking, if I look at the analytics for our Benable, our preferred list, we have people from all over the world looking to plan their weddings in New Jersey, which is kind of exciting. But, anything that you can, if it's not your priority that you have like that exact color of that flower, then definitely consider some of these things that you don't have to do them yourself.
Right,
Because
right.
I was at Pleasantly Divine, just over the fall, last fall, and everything looked so pretty and the arch was pretty. And it's like you would never really know that that was all done by the venue. You
Right.
would think that it was hand-picked each piece by the couple.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good to simplify your life in ways that your priorities are elsewhere, you
And
know?
not only does it simplify your life, not only is it budget friendly, but when we spoke with her as well, it's also there's a mindfulness of
Yes.
why create more things, more and more garbage afterwards and stuff, something that's only going to be used once.
Right.
And so a lot of venues are really offering this now. Yeah, we have an arch for you. No, we don't need
Yeah.
to constantly overbuy and have too many things. Like,
Hmm.
we don't need that. There's a mindfulness to it now.
I
So
like that. I like
once
it.
you have your budget and you consider things like that, what it might include, and taxes, other kind of fees that might include, you also want to, as you're looking to make your list of venues to go check out, capacity. Will it
Yes.
comfortably accommodate your guest list? Because now you've already made your, as we talked about in the first one, you've made a draft of your guest list, and you have probably then a second guest list of if we can include more people,
Right,
depending
right.
on budget and venue. And you might want to look for a place that's flexible. If you think your guest count might increase or decrease, some people are like, maybe by 10 people. But if you think that there's could be a drastic change, make sure that your venue can can hold that, or doesn't, there's no maximum, that if you're going to go under that maximum, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah. Well, I think, most of our venues are flexible to a point. But,
Right.
if you're looking at a place that can seat 150 people and your guest list is 180, you're going to be worried about that once you start getting your replies in. It's like,
Yeah.
where are we going to
So,
put the rest of these people?
yeah.
And then same thing with the minimum. If you have to have a 80-person minimum and you've got like 83 people on your list, yeah, maybe
Yeah,
not the best idea. Yeah.
you might, so you might want to check with that. That's not something that everybody has, but if that's you, you might want to check on capacity. And I
Yeah.
guess, um, and location, sometimes people, you might want to consider the convenience for your guests, especially if a lot of your guests are traveling from out of state. it's how hard is it to get to from the
Yeah.
airport or from,
Hmm.
Jersey's not so bad,
No,
really.
it really isn't. Um, but
Being
yeah, I
here
mean,
at the shore, I will say, if you are having, because I'm located at the Jersey
yeah,
Shore, I do a lot of weddings. If you are having your wedding in the summer here at the Jersey Shore, you really want to make sure that there are nearby accommodations that will do a room block for you in June, July, and August, if that's when you're having your wedding, and that there's parking at the
absolutely.
ceremony
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah.
wedding space.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's hard here at the Jersey Shore, so
Yeah.
you just want to make sure. But many of them, that venues that don't have their own parking lot, because parking is an issue at the Jersey Shore,
Yeah.
many of them do offer the ability to um almost like a room block, a block at of parking from a local
Oh, that's
parking
good.
lot. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's we up here we don't really have, issues like that. But there are. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day who does like room blocks. Another vendor who books room blocks for people. That is something that as soon as you decide on your venue, you really need to think about that too. If it's a factor for you, it may not be, but even people who most of their guests are local, some of those people are going to want to stay
Yeah.
uh, just to either be, extend the party a little bit or just to not, not be driving after a big party. But, when you think about some of these venues can do 12 weddings in a weekend, where are all those people staying?
Right.
That's something that you want to
You
think
really need
about
to.
very soon into your process. As soon as you picked your venue, that's something that you really want to look into if it's a factor for your guests.
And then is if your venue has the other thing to think about is menu options. Do you
Hmm.
like the food? Obviously, if they you can do a food tasting, but also look at their menus if you have food restrictions, if you're gluten free, if you're vegetarian, if you're vegan, if you're
Right.
kosher, if you want if you're multicultural and you want some other kind of food. New Jersey, we pretty much here in New Jersey have it all, and many of these venues have great award-winning
Yeah.
chefs,
Oh,
and you can
absolutely.
really look at reviews for the venue and for the menus on all of those. But just make sure if you have specifics that you want, that
Hmm.
they offer it. And I would think many of them do, but that's something to have on your list. And for outdoor venues, many have like a ceremony space or a cocktail hour that's outdoors. Is during, we have some beautiful garden ceremony
Hmm.
spaces, venues with ceremony spaces out in gardens or on the beach. Just weather backup plan. Does
Got to
that
have a backup.
indoor, yeah, and does that indoor ceremony space, are you going to be happy with it?
Right.
You can't be crushed if you have to move inside during a thunderstorm. You
Exactly.
have to be like, oh, look, it's just as beautiful in
It's
here,
just as
you
pretty,
know?
and many of them are
Oh,
just
yeah, the
as,
tides,
especially,
gorgeous.
if
Yeah,
you're talking about like being in the winter, being in like the end of winter, sort of, it might be spring. Yes, it might be 70 degrees in February, but you know, you want everybody to be comfortable in
yeah,
every part of the ceremony and the reception. So yeah, and what is the flexibility
right,
of what, when do you need to make a decision? How does that work? We just talked to Kate from the Old Mill, and I have been at the Old Mill Inn when they literally went from an outside ceremony to an inside ceremony in literally 5 minutes.
right.
Literally,
That was
it's
impressive,
really
but yeah.
amazing to watch. But it's something that nobody really wants to think of, but you just really have to,
You
because
have
if you
to.
know it's under control, then you're not going to stress. It's all about like stress relief. You don't want to worry about the number of guests not fitting in the room or not being enough for the room. You don't want to worry about, if you have a significant portion of people. I think almost all of our venues offer vegetarian and
Yeah,
vegan options, but maybe you're doing a South Asian wedding. Maybe you need that specific kind of food for many of your guests, or if you're doing two ceremonies, if you're doing that kind of a ceremony and then a Western ceremony too. So, all these things, they can be, it's like you're pre-worrying. It's like get it out of the way before
Ask
you
the
get to that,
questions. Make
but
a list of what's
right.
important to you with that and ask all the questions you
Right.
want, you know?
Definitely. So where are we going to be if it rains? What's going
Mm.
to happen if it snows? How, it's nobody wants to think about it, but
What
you
happens if,
definitely don't want to think
yeah,
about it 2 days before your wedding, for sure.
right. What happens if we go under the maximum? What happens if, so ask those
We're
questions.
not worried.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then, like I said before, you might want to check the reviews and recommendations
Oh, absolutely.
online.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
loves reviews,
Yeah.
and seek recommendations from wedding professionals too.
Right.
I
Ask your
get a lot of
people.
people asking me, I'm choosing between this venue and
Yeah.
that venue, and or what have you ever done a wedding at this venue? And
Mhm.
and yeah, I'll give you my feedback. Most of the ones are just beautiful, like the one I was just at yesterday. But we do get a fair amount of people asking our opinion.
Yeah, it's true. And, I think that, if you're looking at venues that are a little bit, not traditional, there may be things that you would not really have to think about if you're at a venue that does, you know, three weddings a weekend, every year.
Yeah.
Maybe you've picked, I mean, I have two museum spaces that we work in. We have, at this point we have like four or five farms too. And, there may be feedback from all your different vendors, like your photographers. If you have a photographer who's worked at your venue 75 times, um, ask them what their feedback is about, what's going to make their job easier and your pictures better. We
Right.
we all have, and it's not, well, this venue is bad and this venue is good. Sometimes it's just like little things like, do you
Those
know
little
this about
things.
that? And
But
oh no, I didn't realize that. Well, now you know, and now you can plan for it.
right, right. So if you want to make sure you can do all your photography on site or something like
Yes,
that.
that's
Or,
definite. Yeah.
but then be sure and ask those questions. You might want to ask about certain rules. If you have always wanted to end your ceremony with the confetti guns or something like that, or end your night with the
Yes.
sparklers, you make sure that that's allowed at the venues you're
Yeah.
going to see. So this is such a great fun time. Check out some bridal shows. We talked about that. We had the Old Mill Inn on
Mm.
in Basking Ridge, and they are having a bridal show. Is it the 16th of this
It is
month?
the 16th at
There's a lot
5
of
to 8.
great bridal shows that are going to be happening because
Yeah,
it
this
is
is the
the wedding
season.
season. Um, the Old Mill Inn, you can go to that bridal show. Go to their website. You can sign up for it on there. It's free. They just want to know how many people are going to show up, and you can see a lot of great
It's fun.
vendors
Yeah.
there too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fabulous. So really the breakdown here is you've discussed and your style and theme. You also want to check for availability for your date if you are
Mhm.
confined to a certain month. It reminds me of the teacher who's off in the summer that wants to get married in the summer. So if that's important to you, it has to be
Yeah.
during these months, then that's also on your list. So think of your budget, the
Mhm.
capacity, location and convenience for your guests and yourself, style, theme, availability, if that's very important to you to have it during just a certain month,
Mhm.
weather backup plans, your list of what you really want. We want to make sure we can do this. We want to make sure we can have
Mhm.
this menu, basic reviews, and then you end with the all you talked about it, the people saying that, this we walked in and this is what we want.
This is
Get
what we
your
wanted.
overall
Mhm.
vibe, the
Yeah.
ambience, the staff professionalism, how it all feels in real life, and trust your instincts.
Yeah. Well, and you may not know that when you're starting to look at places. And, I've had plenty of people who've, started out looking at ballrooms and ended up being in a barn.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
it's just,
right. Yeah,
and,
because you didn't know.
it's, the more information you have and the more ideas, stylistic ideas that you try on, the closer you're going to get to what, you're going to be at your own wedding having a fabulous time, which is
Right.
really, kind of the goal, I think. and that fabulous time is a product of a lot of good decisions along the way. And, arguably the biggest one is where you're going to be.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So in conclusion, I do want to say, we'll have a third part to this, but go to the website, NewJerseyWeddingPodcast.com.
Mhm.
We have had great interviews with the Old Mill Inn, the Estate at Eagle Lakes, uh, the Hyatt place. Who else? The Mill Lakeside Manor, Clark's Landing, the
Some,
Reeds,
pleasantly divine. We have
the
some,
Tides.
the
That was a
tides.
great
Yeah.
one.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So
It's,
check it all out. The Sheratons, the Windsor Ballrooms, all of these, the Sterling Ballroom.
oh
I
God, yeah.
mean, the Manor House in Princeton. Oh my goodness, we've talked to
There's such
so
an
many
array of
great
them.
venues.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of all the ones, but we have really talked to so many great ones. Just go through it and look at those venues. Maybe we'll put together a list and of all the venues so far and our upcoming ones. But
We have a list, Andrea.
oh,
It's
I'm pitiful.
unbendable.
I'm sorry. Uh,
We actually do have a list. It's called Benable.com. Let's see, Beneable.com. It's on all our websites and the podcast things. It's a great way for us to put together a preferred list. When you go to it, it's at New Jersey Wedding Podcast. It'll be in the links are all available. You just can go there and look at there's a list of our musicians and DJs. There's a list of our venues, of course. Um, and you just can go there and click on the pictures and you'll go right to these pros and venues. You'll go right to their website. So
right.
it makes it really, really easy to look at, a lot of things. And if you want more information about any of them, they have all been guests on our
Right. So
podcast.
you can go
Yeah.
to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you
Hmm.
listen to it and you say, oh, look at this. The Tides Estate was on there. I've heard of them.
Hmm.
I'm going to go listen to them because
Yeah.
they the manager on there talking about their weddings and describing it and what it includes. So many venues. We've had so many venues on, and they've all been great interviews. And you can
Yeah.
really get a sense of the venue and the passion that some of these folks have for
Absolutely.
their
Yeah.
family.
And it's a different kind of
Really,
conversation than going for a sales conversation. Yep.
exactly.
It's you get a little bit of background about the place and what the people. You're going to be working with these people. If you work with that venue, these are the people that you're going to have, helping you put this together. So
Right, right.
it's great to meet them.
It really is. So be sure to follow, subscribe, like, and check out the podcast. We have a lot more venues coming up, and we will have part 3 of congratulations on your engagement. What's next? Coming up
Got,
next week.
got
So
your venue now. What are you going to do? Okay.
yeah, yeah. And we always want to hear from you. If you have any questions or any advice, just go ahead and contact us through the social media messages, or there is a contact form on the website. Everything is called New Jersey Wedding Podcast. We never share your contact
No.
information or your name. We just answer your questions, share your advice. And previous brides, previous grooms, if you would like to be on the podcast and talk about your wedding and your wedding planning and give advice to other couples who are just starting
Yeah.
the process, we want to hear from you. And they want to hear from you. So just shoot us an email. Everything's there.
Sounds like an idea to me.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye. This podcast is brought to you by New Jersey wedding officiant Andrea Pertel, owner of For This Joyous Occasion Officiating Services.
And Celia Milton, owner of NJ Vows Now, also New Jersey wedding officiating services. We're up in North Jersey, and Andrea is down in Central and South Jersey. So together we cover the whole state, don't we?
Yes, yes.